Good afternoon, Missouri Realtors. How's everybody doing today? All right. Thank you for all being here. The Emerging Issues Forum is a program of the Strategic Planning Committee, which I've had the pleasure of leading this year, along with my vice chair, Brandon Glasscock. As you know, the real estate landscape is evolving faster than ever, and few forces are reshaping our industry as quickly as artificial intelligence. AI is no longer a future concept. It's already influencing how realtors market properties, manage contracts, navigate compliance, and meet rising client expectation. The question is no longer whether AI will be part of your business, but how to use it wisely, legally, and profitably. Today's Emerging Issues Forum is designed to cut through the hype and provide real-world clarity on AI's role in real estate. Our goal is to explore how AI is being used in live transactions, where the legal and ethical guardrails exist, and which tools can genuinely improve productivity without putting your license or your clients at risk. To help guide this conversation, we're pleased to be joined by three nationally recognized experts who bring practical, legal, and strategic perspectives on AI in real estate. Josh Cadillac brings the practitioner's viewpoint, drawing from his experience in residential, commercial, and investment real estate to show how AI is already influencing deal analysis, negotiations, client expectations in the field today. He is an award-winning inspirational speaker, international speaker and inspirational speaker, real estate coach, and the #1 international best-selling author who trains agents how to close for life, turning expertise into trust, credibility, and clients who come back again and again. As a top producer since going full-time in 2008, Josh holds the National Speakers Association Certified Speaking Professional designation, has earned 2 Speaker of the Year awards from the Miami Realtors, and holds 40-plus real estate designations and certifications. He's also the creator of the ACE continuing education courses, including Florida's first approved crypto and real estate CE class, one of only a handful approved nationwide. He's the author of The Roadmap of American Dream, Close for Life, and Success for Life. Trista Curzaldo offers the legal and compliance lens, helping realtors understand where AI use can cross regulatory lines, threaten licensure, violate fair housing laws, or expose confidential client information. She's a graduate of Washburn University and Washburn University School of Law, where she was a member of the Washburn Law Journal. After serving as the assistant legal counsel to Kansas Governor Bill Graves, Trista joined the office of the district attorney for the 18th Judicial District of Kansas as an assistant district attorney assigned to the Consumer Fraud Division. From 2004 to 2010, January 2010, Trista was the Government Affairs Director and legal counsel for the Wichita Area Association of Realtors in the South Central Kansas MLS in Wichita, Kansas. Trista now devotes her time to offering excellent educational opportunities for real estate licensees across the country. And our final speaker is Craig Grant. He rounds out the panel with hands-on guidance, focuses on realtors can responsibly implement AI tools to save time, enhance marketing, and remain competitive in a rapidly changing marketplace. He's an international best-selling author, creator of the BEATS Conference and Alliance, and founder of the Real Estate Technology Institute and RETI.US, the industry's home for online tech education. Recognized as the RIS Media Newsmaker as an industrial futurist and the lead subject matter expert behind NAR's newest rebuild of ePro, Craig delivers over 150 presentations each year, and some on the biggest stages around the world. He's known for taking the most complex tech, marketing, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence topics and making them so simple that anyone can put them to work right away. The fast-paced emerging discussion will lead you with clear takeaways, smarter questions to ask, and a stronger understanding of how to navigate AI with confidence as our industry moves forward. Please join me in welcoming them. Welcome, Joshua. Just welcome. Great. All right. So this first question is for Josh. AI is no longer hype, but it's also unevenly adopted. From your vantage point, what are the most meaningful ways AI is already changing a realtor's day-to-day work, and what should agents stop worrying about right now?
Well, I mean, obviously stop worrying about being replaced. I think that we're still dealing with a tangible asset, and as long as it's a tangible asset, there's going to have to be somebody that physically has to facilitate the interaction with that. And there's so many moving pieces with the actual real estate transaction that I don't think that goes away. Like, we're safe. The plumber's a little bit more safe than us, I think. Like, the plumbers, they're in pretty good shape, but I think the real estate agents, we're pretty good too. I think what's changing on a daily basis is meeting prep. It's much easier to get ready for meeting prep. The Otter AI and things like that, giving you summaries of meetings that have gone on. And one of the big things you have to worry about with AI is the mistakes, right? But it also helps you avoid mistakes of things that maybe you missed in a meeting that you were in. You know, you were making the list of things that, you know, what the to-dos are. And it can give you this great summary of things. So those things are helping, preparing your offer memorandas, things like that. Putting together just overall deal structure. I think that's the place that's really helping. I'm seeing a lot.
Excellent. Craig, if an agent wants measurable results in the next 30 to 90 days, what are 2 or 3 AI-powered workflows most likely to produce ROI?
Truthfully, I mean, AI can be used for anything. So I would say ROI goes back to what can help improve your business the fastest, whether that's marketing, content creation, whether it's business planning, whether it's setting up the proper processes so things are more automated flows. So anytime I try to coach about how to use AI, I always say you got to figure out your core problem first, so we can use AI to help you solve that problem to make you the most ROI.
Excellent. This can be anyone on the panel who wants to answer the next question.
Uh-oh, wild card.
Before adopting those, what was one safety habit that must be built into the workflow from?
Go ahead.
Krista, it sounds
She's
like you're
itching
the
for this
expert.
one.
I think this is me.
Right?
So for those of you who were with me this morning, we talked about kind of having that checklist. When you decide to start using a platform, we're going to go through and we're going to take a look at a few things. First of all, we want to know who owns the platform, because we need to be looking at those terms of use on how data is going to be used. And then we also want to look at exactly what are the uses of this tool. Are we using it the way that it needs to be used? Is there another tool that might be able to work for us a little better? And then the big two for me are always going to be, am I making a disclosure of confidential information that I didn't intend to make? Because remember that AI, it's a third person. I like to think of it as it would be the biggest gossip in the room, which in this case would be Craig Grant. So if I'm gonna, if I'm going to sit down and I want to accomplish something, it would be like if I said, hey, Craig, what do you think about this? Do I think Craig is going to tell everybody what I said? Absolutely.
Very possibly.
So AI is going to take what I've said or what I've implemented, and it's going to put it into its large language model in most cases. I want to know if that's going to happen. I want to know if the sub-processors, meaning the constellation of large language models that are used by all those platforms, are they going to take my data and put it out there? And then I also want to look at that data retention part. How long is that entity going to keep my data? How is it going to encrypt it or not? I'm a big end-to-end encryption person.
Same.
I know you are. Right. I know. It might be the only thing we agree on today, right there, end-to-end encryption. And so I'm going to read those terms of use, which I think, I know a lot of people groan at the thought of reading them, but it's important that you do, because those are going to dictate what happens to you, the data that you give to that entity. And so you got to read them.
Yep. And by the way, very few people, there's people like Trish and I that actually read terms of service, right? So it's learning from people who actually put in the time to know what to do and not to do. The other things I'll kind of throw on top of that is there's a monstrous difference in the AI platform world between free accounts and paid accounts. Free accounts, if you actually take the time to read the term of service, you're basically consenting to provide all your usage into the learning models. And learning models are public access data. So you can literally Google search someone's free usage on most of the AI platforms for free. Whereas paid accounts, you're basically paying for privacy, you're paying for the encryption and data retention. And then the other part I throw on top of that is when it comes to data retention, first of all, Code of Ethics, Article 1-9 requires you to store info. Then state law says you have to store it for a certain period of time. And free accounts typically don't go beyond 30 days of retention. So I always say on day 31 with a free account, you're violating your state retention laws.
Oh, Craig, I don't think so.
Oh, there we go.
No.
I knew we knew this would happen at some point.
No, you're not going to be using an AI platform as your data retention tool. If I'm going to use, so let's say, what would I use? Like Zoom AI Companion, right? And anything that's discussed in that Zoom meeting that would be subject to the requirements for how long I keep things. And it's not just Code of Ethics. Every state has a requirement on how long you keep records. I think you should also pay attention to your attorney and your accountant when you decide how long to keep records. Those are going to be, you're going to store those on your own system, your own server. When it comes to how long data is going to be kept by a platform that I use, I don't want it to be kept.
Right.
I like a zero data retention.
Okay.
I don't want any entity out there to have data that I'm responsible for, because that's one more door that would be, opened for somebody that might breach, and then I'm going to get sued. I like to think of every file, every bit of data that I've put out in the world, that's dollars. And I want the least amount of dollars that aren't under my control. So where I store data is where I store it. And then I don't want any other entity taking my data.
Agree with that. But if that entity is storing your data for a period of time, you got to make sure it's end-to-end encryption, which only a few of them are doing.
Very few are end-to-end. And then you also want to look at, like, when it comes to, do they let me have a third party do end-to-end encryption? Can I hire a service to do that end-to-end encryption? And a lot of them say no, which is very frustrating, because it's kind of like Anthropic. It views everything that you put into their LLM. I mean, it reads everything to see if you've violated their terms of use, allegedly.
Can I just
Allegedly. I like how you stuck that in there.
one guardrail on there?
Yeah.
Read it, like whatever it gives you, read it, because what it gives you oftentimes has problems in it. I mean, you have to read it like it's something that somebody else created for you. If you gave your assistant and said, hey, do a draft letter for me, you wouldn't just take and send it in. Like, one of the guardrails for me, anything it makes, I'm gonna read it over, I'm gonna double check, I'm gonna make sure it's compliant. I don't trust it to do this stuff because, guys, the mistakes it makes sometimes are like super, like, and it's hilarious what it says when you catch it. It's like, oh, oops, good catch.
My bad.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, wow, thanks, guy. You're amazing. So that's.
But I think that's just kind of going back to business practices that
It
kind of
is.
existed before. Like, when I
Sort of.
first became an attorney, the law firm that I went to, by the way, awesome firm. We did asset protection management and divorce. So when you decided your current spouse should be your former spouse, we hide your money a year in advance, and then we handle the divorce. It's amazing. It was such a good environment to work in. But we had a 3 eyes rule. 3 different people
Sets of
in the
eyes.
firm had to look at something before it left, and there was always one that did the grammar review. That was not me. I was
Yep.
never the grammar review. The Oxford comma and I have issues. And then the second person would look for things like, does it adhere to the message? Like, we were very, politically driven. And then the third was the law, and I was always the law. And so it's kind of, we need to kind of go back to those days where I'm using this tool. This is like it came from my uneducated intern. I want to look at those sets of eyes coming back, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to pay attention to it.
Well, I think the reason why I bring it up is because it's something new.
Yeah.
And what the problem really is, it lulls you into a sense of security a lot of times,
Right.
because it turns out some really good stuff. And then out of the blue, it throws out something that's, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I think the filter, and I love what you said, because this is another filter that I lay on top of this in my own business, is what it's giving me reflective of the kind of business that I'm trying to run? Like, is this consistent with who I'm trying to be? If your business, as we talked about earlier, for those of you who were in the session earlier, closing clients for life, is this building to that message? If it's not, I have to go re-educate the AI to say, hey, no, this is how we handle this. There's this constant, like, not only like training of the employee, but almost a retraining of the, because like it forgets, like a regular employee does. Like, you have to have all right, you're getting written up for this one kind of thing with AI at times. it is a thing. So for me, as simple as it is, read it and like really read it through the context of, is this commensurate with the kind of business that I run, and is it compliant with all the things that matter?
Yeah, in the AI world, we call it maintaining your voice, right? You don't want anything to sound like it's coming out of a robot. You want to make sure it always presents you and your brand properly. And a lot of people just get lulled into comfort and they just copy and paste. They just kind of take AI content and don't review and check every detail. I would say anything I create is a first draft. You got to slow down, read every little word, every detail. If it's a picture, look at every item that you can see in that image, make sure there's nothing in there offensive or anything like that, because AI can get you in deep trouble really, really quickly if you just copy and paste and run with things.
Craig, I've got another question for you, but it was definitely humorous this morning. You were teaching some brokers and you had to discipline your AI a few times.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I discipline it all the time.
If you had to teach, Craig, agents one prompting framework that consistently produces useful, compliant outputs, what would it be?
All right, so first thing is, and I taught this in that workshop as well, I'm a big believer in try to dummy-proof your account settings as much as possible. So in other words, whatever platform you're using, it gives you the ability to go in and create guardrails. So I always typically recommend putting in things like the NAR Code of Ethics, putting in your state fair housing laws, the federal fair housing laws, your advertising rules and regulations, your company's policy manual, whatever you have, and put them in there and say, please always try to adhere to these things. But again, just because you put it into your settings doesn't mean it's going to follow it at all times. So just because I ask it to pay attention to fair housing doesn't mean it may not violate it at some time. So that's what I mean by not getting lulled into laziness and trusting it. You want to put the guardrails in, but at the same time, you still want to proof every little detail of AI content.
That's excellent advice. This is for any of our panelists. So what specific constraints or instructions should always be included in a prompt to reduce risk, such as overconfident facts, legal conclusions, or fair housing issues?
I like how the way everybody's looking at me up here. And it's what I wouldn't do. And, and Craig and I have had this discussion several times, and I know that there are some folks when they talk about AI are like, and then I just tell it, follow the Fair Housing Act. And isn't that awesome? Because then it's following the Fair Housing Act. And it's
not.
It's
always.
not always following. And part of that is, if you think about, for those of you who were with me in the fall, we talked about the impact of Loper Bright, and that HUD is going to be making a lot of changes when it comes to the enforcement of the Fair Housing Act. And I was off the mark a little. I thought it was going to take a year, and it took 4 months for HUD to really start acting on it. And so if I'm directing an AI product, look at your large language model and follow the Fair Housing Act, it's looking at a dated Fair Housing Act. It's not giving me what's happening today when it comes to the way that things have changed. And this morning I was updating a course that I'm teaching in the South, and I'm reading what was adopted by their legislature, yesterday. And that's not going to be incorporated into the large language model for months. It's not going to be there. And so I can't just say follow the law, because AI doesn't know what the law is.
Yeah. Now, if I could expound on that, though, and I, again, went over this in the workshop and everything, if you just ask AI a generalized question or anything like that, it basically searches the internet, and I would say anytime it touches the internet, you're rolling the dice whether they're getting good or bad information. What I always try to coach is when it comes to prompting, if you're smart, you control the narrative and you provide it the exact source of content you want it to use. So for example, if those laws just changed a couple months ago, you give it the exact link or PDF file to those new updated laws. If you're wanting to do any kind of real estate data or anything like that, you don't just say, what's the market value in our area? You give it the exact link or the PDF file to this month's MLS report or whatever kind of data you have. So if you're providing the context, it will not search the internet. It's only going to use the source you're providing it, and that usually guarantees at least better, more accurate information.
Are you talking about like creation of like a RAG?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about like retrieval automated generator? Is that what you mean when you say guidelines, a RAG? I'm going to limit what it has access to?
Yeah, well, in the prompt itself, you can say, here's the PDF file of the newest laws, I want you to use this, versus internet searching where it could pull an outdated one, whatever it might be. So you can upload PDF files, Word documents, spreadsheets of data, whatever you have, or give it an exact link to a certain website or websites you want it to use in any prompt you're doing. So if you do that, again, it's not going to search the internet, and then it typically will come back with the only information you're asking it to use.
I think instead of guardrails, you might want to go like that step further, do that closed data set, like a true RAG, where it can't
Correct.
It can't go outside of what I've given it.
Correct.
And so at that point, it becomes more like a summarization tool than like a research tool.
Exactly.
But I also wouldn't ask it to summarize something that I don't fundamentally understand
Right.
either,
Yeah.
because it might not get it. And so the example that comes to my mind is there was legislation that was introduced. A realtor serves on the legislature in Wyoming, and a few years back, she introduced legislation to make it easier to remove restrictive covenants that are associated with properties. It was a huge victory. And for those of you who've seen those restrictive covenants that have kind of language that we don't want associated with title work. And when it was, and then another state legislator introduced it in another state, mirroring the language in that Wyoming one. And when it was reviewed, when it was summarized by, in this case, it was OpenAI, ChatGPT, it actually summarized it to say that the legislator had introduced a bill that would prohibit the sale of property to anyone who adheres to Judaism. That is not what her bill did at all. It was to prohibit restrictive covenants like that instead of creating a statewide restrictive covenant. And ChatGPT just summarized it wrong. Like because it looked at the testimony, and one of the testimonies that had been entered by someone was talking about, and they read what restrictive covenants there were, and it was prohibit the sale of someone who adheres to Judaism, prohibit the sale based on color, prohibit the sale based on national origin, and that's the language then that it glommed onto and shot out. Well, if you publish that, which is what happened in that case, it went out like on the website, on her website, saying this legislation will impact real estate, that's defamation. And her claim was, I put in there that parts of this, were generated by AI, so I'm in the clear. No, it's republication liability. It's where the party of the first part is responsible for the action of the party of the second part.
No, I think that the big thing that I'm hearing, and it's what the rule that I adhere to, this is the guardrail for me. If I don't know it well enough to catch the mistake, I can't trust it with the output kind of thing. So like I'm happy to go to AI and have it teach me stuff, but I always got to go double check whatever it says. So like the other day I was asking it I had a question on capital stacks for something that I was doing, a syndication thing. And I wasn't quite clear, and I was looking more for confirmation from it, confirm what I had, but I went out and I got another source as well, because it wasn't something like I knew. What I use it for is, hey, run this internal rate of return on this property based upon these things, and it kicks it out. I took and I ran it myself someplace else, and guess what? It was wrong. And I couldn't even figure out how it got it so wrong. So yeah, you got to know your stuff well enough to be able to catch it in its mistake. If you're putting stuff out that's like you're trying to use it to make you sound and be smarter than you actually are, that's when you're going to get in trouble, I think.
And if I could add a couple technical aspects to it, there's well-known holes or weaknesses in the AI world. One of them, what's called a knowledge horizon, which means AI is only as smart as what it has access to. So you can ask it to search the internet, but if what you're asking for is all private information that's like a paid kind of a program, it's not going to get you accurate information, and then it's going to go make it up. It's going to try to find it from another source. And just to give you an example, I had a woman in my event the other day. She was kind of bragging how she was using AI to kind of create her family tree, all her genealogy. And I was like, how good a job is it doing? She's like, actually not very good. I'm like, yeah, because that's all private information from sites like Ancestry.com and 23andMe. There's no way it's going to do a good job on that, right? Because it's all private paid information. So knowledge horizons are a known issue. And then the other main issue is what's called confirmation bias, which is, like it or not, these AI platforms are people pleasers. They want to make you happy because they want you to keep using that platform and not go try out one of the others. So if AI doesn't know the answer to something, it'll lie and make it up to make you happy. It's called hallucinating. And it's a very well-known fact in the AI world. And the people that run these multi-billion-dollar companies cannot figure out why it lies all the time, why it's racist for no darn reason, and all these things. If they could have figured it out, they would have stopped it a year ago. They cannot figure it out. So you got to be really, really careful with AI content. Again, you never publish. You review every detail before you do.
Trista, this is kind of a follow-up question from the earlier one, but beyond writing better prompts, what human skill or habit separates agents who get strong, reliable AI outputs from those who get risky or unusable ones?
I think it's exactly what Josh said. I know we agree. It might be the first time that has ever happened. It really is, do you know your stuff? Are you expecting AI to really provide that knowledge that you don't have? Because that's not what AI does. Because AI can't distinguish between what is real and what is not. And so the example that I always give is, I have 2 daughters, they're 21 and 16 now, but when each of them was in the 5th grade, they came home from school and they were like, Mom, we have this assignment and you have to sit down and do it with us. Like, you have to sign this paper that you did this assignment with us. And you read this article that the teachers sent home, and then you answer questions about it. And my oldest daughter, she's very beautiful, very, very beautiful. And my youngest daughter is brilliant. And they had very different approaches to this assignment. And so my first daughter reads it and she's like, this is really interesting. I didn't know this. And she's trying to answer the questions and I'm looking at her, and my youngest daughter starts reading it and she's like, this is crap. And I was like, Emily. And the entire article is about these northern tree octopodes, which is the plural for octopus, octopodes. I know, something you've learned today. And in the forests of the state of Washington, there are octopodes that live in the trees. And they are suffering from near extinction because of deforestation and an increase in the only predator to these octopodes, which is the Sasquatch. And so because there's such a huge increase in the Sasquatch population, it's negatively impacting these octopus. And the whole point of the assignment is to figure out, you're reading this and you're like, I know this not to be true, right? It is to research and find out if what was written is true or not, and to kind of call it out. AI is going to read that octopodes article and it's going to say, there are octopodes, they live in the forests of Washington state, and they are being eaten by Sasquatch.
Yep. And here is how to contribute to the charity to support the octopodes.
Absolutely.
And here's a business model to start your own. Yeah, no.
Yes.
And by the way, March 2025, AI-generated content surpassed human-generated content on the internet. Like, there's so much AI slop, just crap on the internet now that was made by AI, and the platforms can't figure out what's real and not. So the reality is, the AI platforms, even though we think they're getting so many new cool features, they're literally getting dumber by the day because of the amount of bad AI content on the internet.
But originally, like things like in the AI Bill of Rights, it was supposed to be your generator was going to pick up and be able to demonstrate if it was AI created or not.
Correct, but
and
that's
so
no
now
longer
that
a thing.
we no longer have the Bill of Rights, we don't have that tool that's available to us. And I know probably educators everywhere are mad because they're not able to know what's AI generated or not.
Yep.
Craig, so walk us through one real AI workflow, marketing or transactional, that agents can reuse weekly from idea to finished output.
Absolutely. If any of you guys were in my workshop, I showed you like step by step how to build out an entire year's worth of blogging content for website search optimization, how to build out an entire year's worth of social media content and everything else. So one thing that I always coach when I teach about how to prompt and how to do things is called sequencing. So a sequence is when one prompt builds on the previous one. So for example, I can say, give me an idea of 30 ideas I should post this month on social media. That'd be prompt number 1, just give me a list of ideas. Then prompt number 2 in the sequence is, now go build me everything I need to go post idea number 1, right? So you can literally just build, make one question. I mean, anyone who's in my session, I built out easily over 1,000 pieces of content in an hour, right? So that's something that is easily replicable all throughout the year, is just understanding how to build and leverage a sequence. Again, you just, one prompt builds on the previous one, and you keep building and building and building. And then the other part is, and I showed this, I give out so many AI tools and everything in my sessions, right? But I always say there's only 2 must-haves, 2 things you gotta buy. One is your main AI platform, the one you're gonna use every day, whether it's ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, whichever. And then the other one, if you're not already paying for it, is Canva Pro. Because the combination of the 2 things, we're not talking about a lot of money, I can accomplish anything I want on the marketing side, from a workflow and everything, with those 2 things combined.
Excellent. Josh, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I like what Craig is saying, and I like, for me, from a practical standpoint, something that I do all the time. I'm big on taking a current news story and turning that into a real estate recommendation for clients so that they always know I'm cutting edge, and for conversational purposes, but also potentially to set it out. So like, day before yesterday, we had the consumer confidence number come out that was expected to be 89. The number came in at 92. So consumer confidence is currently higher than anticipated. How do I turn that into a relevant real estate market recommendation? What does that mean? Where is the opportunity? I have AI aggregate that information and help me craft from that, not just a piece, but all of my pieces of where that information might go to. You know, bust it up into a script for a social media post if you're going to do that, if you're going to send out a mailer or anything like that, all of that. So you're being very fresh, very evergreen, and taking really recent current data and pulling it out. So you can actually ask, what's the most recent data that came out, financial news reporting or something like that? What are some things that might mean for real estate investors? If I'm a real estate agent, what would be some things that I could talk to my clients about? If I was a real estate investor, that's one of my favorite things. Give yourself the role of the real estate investor. One of the best ways to be better at our business, guys, is to stop thinking about it like we're the person that's the intermediary and like we're the person doing the deal. If you think like it's your money, you have much better conversations with your clients because you're now lined up together. And so for me, like, how does that different number, expectations were missed. We came in over expectations. Where is the opportunity from that? Great. Let's turn that into a conversation that now gives me ROI with the client, that shows them how prepared I am, how I have relevant data to help their financial decision making going forward, and how they allocate capital.
Yeah. And if I could add one more thing, oh, sorry.
Oh, so there was something that was different between the two of you. So you were saying 2 days ago this came up, so I responded to this. I put that out there. So you're fresh. But you're talking about you created content for a year.
I showed that in the workshop. I typically recommend breaking
When you talk about like content for a year, I'm going to say pump the brakes on that. Do you agree?
100%.
Because you got to read the room. Like if you're going to put out a post that you wrote this week and it's going to go out 3 months from now,
Absolutely.
the room has changed. What people want to hear has changed. So I think that's where Josh, when you're like 2 days ago, this was out there, I responded. I think that's good.
Yeah, no,
but
I agree.
Knowing how to make a year's worth of content, awesome, but pump the brakes on.
Agreed. Yeah,
No, I
and
mean,
by the way, one thing that and that's what I was about to add on to it is all the main AI platforms now support scheduled activities. So instead of doing it a year at a time, you could say every Sunday night, I just want my ideas what I'm going to post this week on social media. Every Monday morning when I get into the office, I want all the newest market data pulled for me, waiting for me in my inbox, right? So I do agree. You want to break it up into much smaller chunks because you don't want to publish something that can make you look foolish or some kind of rules might have changed, whatever. But the capabilities are there is the key.
No, that's what I love about what Craig is doing when he does his sessions, is he's showing you what it can do. That's the thing, just because something can do something doesn't mean it's what you want it to do, right? And so you got to figure out, like, is what you trade on in your real, I mean, maybe you trade on the fact that you have the world's greatest personality and everybody loves you. There's lots of agents that are like that, right? I trade on having really relevant data. So for me, it's more important that it be like right now, because I know that's what my business is built around, right? Just because AI can do something doesn't mean you necessarily want to do it. That's why I kind of go back to that idea. Does it fit in with the kind of business that you're trying to run? And the question that I'd ask you, kind of the bigger question, and I'm sorry to just toss it in here because it is a big question. Have you even told yourself what kind of business you're trying to run? Answering that question for yourself gives you a lot more clarity when you go to work every day as to when you are and aren't done with work. And so it's been when I answered that question in my business, it was super helpful. And when I work with AI, I run it through that filter. Is this consistent with the kind of business that I run? You know, Ferrari doesn't make pickup trucks. They could sell a lot of pickup trucks, I'm sure, but that's not what they make there. So tell yourself what you make here, and then make sure all your AI content and everything you do is in line with that.
I like that.
Yep.
And then I'm also, it's not what can you do, it's what may you do.
Yeah.
Like what's the law say? Yeah.
So the next question for you, Trista, is how should agents think about disclosing AI use to clients, for example, in emails, CMAs, or listing descriptions, without creating unnecessary fear or competitive disadvantage?
And Craig and I had an argument earlier in the
It was a discussion.
It was a
green room.
pre-argument.
It was a pre-argument
For this argument.
over disclosure, and we kind of came in where we didn't think we would. So when I look at, I'm more the when do I have to disclose that I used AI? Like where does this come into play? And we know from this morning, if I'm working with a client that's from Utah, I have to make that disclosure. Like that's required if I'm using that in housing. Other than that, when it comes to when I'm gonna disclose that AI was used, it's gonna be, I mean, because we got in an argument about artwork. Are all y'all?
Not just artwork, any kind of create intellectual property. Yeah, I know.
Craig, I don't know if that word means what you think it means. So,
Breathe. Now unload.
if you're using AI to manipulate, we're going to disclose. So virtual staging, we're going to disclose. If we're using it to make things sound pretty, like I don't necessarily like how I write, so I run something through an AI platform to pretty it up, that's not something that I'm going to need to make a disclosure that AI was used. The only exception would be we do have some platforms like multiple lists, you know, this is kind of a way they're going where they want to know, was AI used? Because remember, if AI generates something, it can't be protected under US copyright laws. And so we need to know that. Is this going to be something that's just into the public domain because it was created or generated by AI? But your disclosure, if you want to put out there, part of this was generated by AI, I think that's good. Put it out there. I put on all of my materials that AI wasn't used because I spent a long time getting this brain, and I want everybody to know that it was me.
That's awesome. All right, so this is for Craig, and this is actually one of my questions that made the list. So how should solo agents, teams, and large brokerages evaluate AI tools differently to ensure real return on investment rather than a tool sprawl?
All right, so again, to me, it goes back to what your core needs are. No matter what kind of tech you're buying, you really got to figure out what is a need and what's a nice to have. So like I mentioned, to me, the only two must-haves in the AI world is picking your main platform and then Canva Pro if you're not already paying for that. Anything else in the AI world, to me, is a nice to have. In other words, if you want to go with an avatar tool, that's a nice to have. Like there's tons of great tools out there for that. If you want an AI video editing software, there's a lot of great ones now. Those are all nice to haves, right? There's a lot of stuff in the commercial space for analyzing properties and data and everything. Those are all nice to haves. So to me, it really goes back to first figuring out what's my core needs, not just chasing every little shiny thing that comes out, because just in the last 3 years, there's now over 500,000 AI products on the market. And there's a new one popping up every day. So you can't chase them all. You got to figure out what is the best match for your core business needs, other than the tools you already have.
So when you're choosing your platform, so that's going to be like, am I ChatGPT? Am I Claude? I can't even pronounce the one that Elon does, Grok?
Grok, yep.
Yeah.
Whatever. How do you choose? So Claude, I think Claude writes more like
Robustly.
me.
Yeah.
Like I think when I read something that was Claude written, when I've given it its instructions, it starts to sound like me.
Yes.
Unlike maybe when I use ChatGPT. But what I really dislike is when people will use one of those and they will say, write this in the voice of, or write this so it sounds like. That irritates me. So how do you choose? Like, is it just a trial and error? Like for somebody in this room who doesn't have a platform, how do they choose?
It's somewhat trial and error, but I can tell you if you're just looking for, and by the way, they test these products side by side on a regular basis in different categories and different kinds of, where it performs in content writing and image generation and everything. And it's a constant game of leapfrog. And what I mean by that is, go back a few months ago, and ChatGPT was winning almost all the battles. Now recently, Claude and Gemini are winning all the battles, right? And, ChatGPT just released a new version yesterday. Maybe it retakes the lead. So it's not like one is blowing away the others across the board. But if you're just looking for the one that is the most solid from an ethical, legal standpoint, it's Claude. Like Claude is the one that is trying to do the best of not being able to be used for any malicious purposes and things like that. But I always kind of break it down to business needs. And I kind of went over this earlier with the groups, but if you're a Google user already, like you're already using Gmail, Google Docs, and Google Drive and all that, Gemini is already built in, and it's a fantastic work assistant inside of Google, right? If you're the kind of person who likes to use tons of third-party tools and you want to add stuff into your account, that's ChatGPT's thing, right? But to me, if you're just picking what's the best one, I honestly think it's between Claude and Gemini. But again, it goes back to which one you like the most.
I think if you're having a bad day, Chat's the one you want.
Oh yeah, because it's the biggest people pleaser.
Nobody makes you feel better or smarter than Chat.
Yeah.
Chat is always telling you how wonderful you are.
It is.
I actually have both. I have a paid account in Chat and Claude.
Yep.
And it depends on what the output I'm looking for is. If I want concise,
Yep.
I go with chat. Chat like strives for this quick, blurby kind of sounding, almost like it's a marketing piece kind of thing. So like for marketing stuff, a marketing script, I find chat is better for that. If I'm doing something descriptive, more like what you and I, like a polished kind of like, here's how you explain something.
Yep.
Claude is going to give you a much more robust description. So I think that they're actually just good at different things.
Yep.
It's like having different employees. The one that I've fallen in love with recently for presentations is Pop AI, which I'd never heard anybody, I stumbled on it by mistake.
Yeah.
But man, my slide decks have gotten so much prettier. I mean, like I like to have nice slide decks and, I can just feed it in there. So like if you're doing mini presentations and you want like really nicely layered and like you really spent a lot of time on it, but you really didn't, man, it's really good at
Yeah,
that stuff.
and there's Notebook LM, there's Gamma, there's a lot of them that do that kind of stuff.
Yep, no, it's
Right?
a thing.
So
I
a
feel
lot
like
of
my
times it's
boring
preference.
slides really are what I'm known for. Like, I really feel like people, when they come to my course, they don't expect entertainment. I don't think that's what they're there for.
No, because they
You're
have
the
you.
entertainment.
Out there.
Why do they need more?
Just saying.
It's a
Well,
thing.
good. So as we got one more question, so I'd like each of you to kind of think about this and answer accordingly, is what is one thing attendees should do this week to use AI more wisely, legally, and profitably?
Ooh. You want to start?
I actually want to track back to something that you were saying before. I was going to lean onto it a little bit, but I didn't. It's actually a philosophy I use with listings. So when I go on a listing presentation, I have learned that less is more. I've gotten to be a much better listing agent as I start bringing less and less stuff, right? And so what I say to myself when I go on a listing presentation is there a clear path to ROI for every single document that is here? Like if it doesn't do something for me that I clearly understand, it shouldn't be there. And when selecting AI tools, that's to me is like the implementation level. Like, don't bring on 4 things. Bring on one thing, figure out how to use it, get ROI out of that, and then if you're going to bring the next tool, have this clear path to, hey, this is how I'm going to get ROI with it. I'm going to use this for offer memorandas. I'm going to use this to review leases because I'm doing a lot of leases right now. That kind of thing. That I think is really to keep from buying a whole bunch of stuff that you're never going to use. That's the way to take and do it. And so like not spending those monthly subscriptions on that stuff that you never wind up using, the way to avoid it is to buy the tool, learn the tool, use the tool, and then figure out whether or not you have the bandwidth to take on something else. And if you can prove to yourself, give yourself the burden to meet of, do I see a path to ROI with this thing? If not, move on.
Yep.
I kind of agree. And when you were saying that, it needs, I know, it's
This.
shocking.
I haven't got one of those yet.
Well, when you were saying I need that ROI, my mind immediately went to Taylor Swift and her
course.
podcast interview, New Heights. And she was saying, my time is valuable.
Yep.
And you have to think of it the same way. Your time is valuable.
Yeah.
So if you're going to start using this tool and you discover, I have to put in so much time to make it work the way I want to make it work and make sure that it's accurate, and I'm investing all of this time and I'm not getting anything back, it's not making my life easier, then don't do it. Give yourself like a period of trial where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this for like 3 months. If I don't have it mastered, if I'm not getting the return that I want on my time, I'm done. And I move along. And when I first started speaking like a million years ago, somebody was really on my case at a convention kind of like this and was like, you have to have a website. And I'm like, I don't want a website. And they're like, you gotta have a website. And I'm like, websites are stupid. And he was like, Trista, if you will review my contract stuff, I will make your website for you. And I was like, fine, whatever. And I discovered very quickly that the way that website was set up, it was too much work. I wasn't getting anything back from it. So I went from having a very interactive website where it took a lot of my time to just having a static website with, there's a page that actually says, I don't like people. Don't bother to email me. I'm not going to email you back. Because I'm honest like that, because there wasn't the return for me. So if you're not getting back what you need, then move on, find a different toy.
Yep.
Greg, you want to wrap
Yeah,
up next?
if I could, I'd say don't be afraid of AI, but be afraid of what AI can do to your life and your business. And what I mean by that is, again, so many people just trust what AI creates and they don't vet the information. They don't check every little detail of it. And there's so many code of ethics violations being filed and fair housing and just people getting in trouble for just trusting AI. Okay, so don't be afraid of it, but at the same time, be afraid of it. Make sure if you're smart, you really thoroughly vet anything it creates.
It's somewhere in between. That's what I'm really hearing. Because, like,
Yeah.
I know there's the person in the room that's like me that just heard that as an excuse. I don't need AI. Because that's who I am. Like, I'm always the guy that's like hesitant to take and do that. And that's not what he's saying, right? If you're not using it, the agents, if you're a good agent, the good agents that are using it are going to beat you. And they're going to beat you badly. Because you can take and buy your time back. And that time, there's two scarce resources in life, time and money. If it's not giving you more time, or it's not making you more money, it's got to go, right? And so attacking this thing, like taking it on and tackling it, and then the other piece of it is, not being afraid of it, but not trusting it too much. It's somewhere in between. That's the healthy place.
All three of us on the panel believe AI is not going to replace the real estate agent, but we think it is going to create a better real estate agent going forward. Like any of you that start using and leveraging this technology and tools and do it properly, legally and ethically, are going to have a leg up in your competition who's still doing things the old school ways. You really are.
Yeah. Well said. Wasn't this awesome? Let's thank our panelists. Yeah, Josh, Krista, great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That's a great job.
Can I get a hand?
Yes. Yay. Awesome job. Thank you, Josh.